Okay, now we're going to talk about learning styles. We're all unique in this world and we all learn differently. So I'm going to talk about three main learning styles that we all have. And some of our styles, the way we learn, are stronger than others. The key is to try to use all three different ways of learning when you study, and especially when you're doing math. But your assessment's going to show what your strongest area is. And sometimes it's all three, sometimes there's two of them, and sometimes there's just one. So the first one we're going to talk about is visual learners. And these are our learners who love to visually see pleasing colors and pictures and diagrams. You love to have classrooms where there are a lot of pictures and diagrams. You like to use highlighters. Highlighters are good for our visual learners. And you tend to like to study in a quiet room, and you remember things by visualizing. So a visual learner, I could ask what you had for dinner last night, and if you're a visual learner, you usually look up to try to remember what you had for dinner. So when you're taking an exam and you're trying to remember something from your study sessions, visualize, look up, and it'll help trigger your memory. It's just a real simple tool, but it works. Auditory learners learn best when you can hear the instructor. And it's also very critical for auditory learners to ask for clarification. So a dialogue between the instructor and the student is very important for students who are high auditory learners. You hear it, you learn it. You speak it, you learn it. You teach it, you learn it. As long as you hear what's going on, it's a real important tool for you to have discussion. Taping, audio taping, or a tape recorder is important for auditory learners. That's something, though, you need to clear with an instructor. You just don't want to bring a tape recorder in without the instructor's permission, but many times that will help you learn the material a lot better. Kinesthetic learners, those are my learners who are my hands-on people. And a kinesthetic learner wants to touch it, wants to work with something in order to learn it. So in math, what you try to do when you're studying is make it a hands-on learning experience. Many times, if you can work with beads or work with cups or little beans, or however, you can figure something creatively to work with your hands in order to learn the material, that would be a strong way for you to learn. You could ask the instructor even, how could I manipulate this to where I can use my hands to learn the material, and maybe they can give you some ideas. I'm going to go back to the visual learner as far as specific, and you may want to take copies of this or write these down, but you really want to visually bring the information to life for yourself. So make your own diagrams, especially when there's a word problem, which tends to stress and cause anxiety for a lot of students. You may want to draw pictures of that word problem and actually visually see what the question is asking. That will help you out tremendously. Use flashcards. Make sure you write what the instructor's writing on the board. Sometimes you need to use 2 or more math books. Sometimes one author writes it one way, and another way, another math book is more helpful for you to understand. Always underline, always use highlighters. Get happy with your highlighters. Make sure you have various colors so that you can put things in different colors. Always sit near the front of the class. You want to see the board. If you're a visual learner, you need to see what's going on. Again, visually pleasing material helps you learn better, so remember that. There's other hints here, and I'm not going to read them word for word, but again, highlighting, rewriting your notes after each class is always important for visual learners. My auditory, you want to make sure you can hear the instructor. It's always important to sit in front of the class no matter what type of learner you are. And my auditory learners need to take part in classroom discussion. You need to ask for clarification. So if you're a little introverted or quiet, this could be a challenge for you. Somehow you've got to force yourself to have dialogue with the instructor or your classmates. Ask a lot of questions. Repeat what the instructor says. When you're studying, try to walk around your area of study and hear yourself talk about the problems. Talk to your roommates or your family members about math problems. They might think that you're a little off, but that's okay. You're hearing yourself speak and you're learning the material that way. Listen for key words, record if you can. Again, you have to ask for permission, and talk your way through math. So if you were to use these tools as an auditory learner, you would find that all of the information you're learning is going to get into your long-term memory, and you're going to learn it, not just memorize it. So those are some very helpful hints for auditory learners. Kinesthetic. You need to move when you learn. So sitting at a desk and studying the material many times is not the best way for you to learn. Many of you may have an exercise ball. What you may want to do is sit on that ball and bounce up and down while you're learning the math material. A whiteboard is really critical for any type of learner, but if you put the whiteboard in color and you're on your exercise ball, or you review the material, maybe do some cartwheels or some lunges or some sit-ups, that's a very powerful way for you to learn the material. Again, push it to your long-term memory and you learn it, not memorize it. Many times if you go to a gym and you see people reading material or studying while they're running on the treadmill, good safe bet that that's a kinesthetic learner, that they're learning by movement. So make sure if you're kinesthetic, again, that you're not sitting at a desk and just sitting there and trying to learn. Get some movement, walk around, put your notes, put them on the side of your wall, stick them on the wall, highlight them, color them, and learn them that way. Just have movement while you're trying to learn. Also for kinesthetic, get out of the closet and use your fingers. Many times we hide underneath our desks to count, and we're ashamed or it's not cool or whatever. But it's a good way for you to learn kinesthetically to use your fingers. And build models or draw pictures. Use measuring cup stones. Again, ask your instructor maybe of different ideas that you can use manipulatives to learn the information. So that's really important for kinesthetic learners.